As The Money Burns is an original podcast by Nikki Woodard. Based on historical research, this is a deep exploration into what happened to a set of actual heirs and heiresses to some of America's most famous fortunes when the Great Depression hits. Each episode has 3 primary sections. Section 1 is a narrative story. Section 2 goes deeper into the historical facts. Section 3 focuses on contemporary, emotional, and personal connections. Story recap. Barbara Hutton and Prince Alexis Divani are finally engaged, and Kobina Wright hostesses once again her circus ball. Now back to As the Money Burns, an Earl and a Duke. An heiress has her hands full battling the taxman while flirting with a new aristocratic suitor. Section 1. Story. Plentiful fortunes attract all sorts of attention. One never knows who might show up next. A long-lost relative, a friend in need, a potential suitor, or inevitably, the taxman. Yes, the taxman. In the United States, Uncle Sam has come collecting taxes again. There has been a heavy push to collect taxes on the wealthy, and that means anyone can come under fire, which this time means richest girl in the world, Doris Duke, who may be young, but she is no pushover, and she will fight all the way up to the Supreme Court. The tall and less awkward heiress is finding her way in this world. In fact, she has become both a fashion icon and one to watch when it comes to suitors, of which she has many, according to the press. Wednesday, May 3rd, 1933, Manhattan. Smooth-faced, boyishly handsome but impoverished, the Earl of Warwick, Charles Guise Fulk-Greville, is among her potential admirers. Returning from a Hollywood trip, he remains sans mustache, which he lost recently after a dare from the one and only starlet Lily Damita in Palm Beach. The Earl is seeking financial opportunities and might consider the silver screen. Tall, with brown eyes, the Earl of Warwick lunches with his host, William Rhinelander Stewart, at the Colony Club, who sports a red carnation in his buttonhole. They are seated across from Doris, who notably dresses exquisitely and most inconspicuously. Her blue eyes matching her plain blue tailleur and white blouse topped by a small, high-crowned blue straw hat. She is without the seemingly requisite sable or silver fox, which wraps around all the other gals at the club. Doris keeps her European sensibilities intact. At other times spotted wearing Chanel, she too is likened to Hollywood glamour and compared most notably to the slim and aloof Greta Garbo. Very much a duke in name without the royal and aristocratic attachment. A little irony since her family comes from the humblest of origins, and Doris can be as simple and unaffected and actually prefers that to stuffy society rules and protocols. Doris dreads a potential return to Newport for the summer and would prefer another European excursion. But alas, there are a few engagements she must attend first. Could the Dollar Princess become another American Dollar Princess the press and public love so much? Will Doris eventually join the ranks of many heiresses before her, along with the soon-to-be-married Barbara Hutton, her former Gold Dust twin who has blossomed since their 1930 debutante balls? Monday, May 8, 1933. The Supreme Court has agreed to review 4 cases for appeal. Among them is one by the Internal Revenue Service, seeking to recover additional taxes of $9 million. Today in 2024, that would be $219.2 million for the Duke estate set up by Buck Duke in 1924, with his death following in the year 1925. The arguments to be heard will be over which year taxes should be applied. This could impact the 2 trusts set up for Doris, which are quoted in 1927 audit, $53 million, though by 1933 now speculated as nearly $30 million. That would be estimates of $951 million down to around $720 million in 2024. The reversal may take into account the impact of and losses due to the crash. Later this year, 1933, Doris will come into her majority when she turns 21, and thus possession and control of both trusts. Already, the Board of Tax Appeals and Third Circuit Court has ruled against the IRS, but the need of more government money is ever pressing, so another attempt is made. Regardless, paid or not, Doris remains one of the wealthiest individuals in the world. Could anyone blame a certain Earl if he did find her more appealing? Her wealth and tenacity also appeals to one particular potential stepfather-in-law. As Philadelphia's repeatedly highest taxpayer, financier E.T. Stotesbury admires Doris's strength. He hates the idea of paying taxes and is under investigation for tax evasion. Nothing outrages him more than the notion of taxes, though he still will not openly admit his coffers have depleted as he dips into the principal of his J.P. Morgan accounts. His idealistic and impractical stepson, James H.R. Cromwell, a.k.a. Jimmy, with the aid of his mother, Eva Stotesbury, and Hope Diamond owner, Evelyn Walsh McLean, have targeted Doris as his proper second wife. E.T. approves of someone else footing the bills. Jimmy and Doris have a hot and cold romance, partially fueled by which way Doris's mother reacts to the situation. It seems Doris can fend off multiple suitors and the taxman, but there is one person she does bend to, and that is her socially ambitious mother, Nanaline Duke. And yet Doris cannot fully abide by her mother's wishes either. Nanaline wants an equal or larger fortune, title or not. Impoverished nobility, especially with expensive estates, have little appeal to Nanaline, who wants the Duke funds diverted to her darling son and non-Duke heir, Walker Inman. Whenever Nanaline seems unkeen on a suitor, his appeal increases in magnitude to Doris. Oh, heiresses too, and maybe even more, have rebellious sides. Maybe the upcoming May ball, hosted by the new First Lady, Eleanor Roosevelt, will provide better options. In other news tidbits, most popular female after-dinner speaker is aviatrix Amelia Earhart. Elsewhere, Princess Donna Cristina Torleonia is seen about town and lunching with her mother, a famous American dollar princess, Elsie Mortolonia. It seems Christina's romance with the proud scion, John Jacob Astor VI, a.k.a. Jakey, has faded as both their mothers wish the youths to remain unattached a little longer. Over in the Atlanta Penitentiary, model inmate convicted on tax evasion, Al Capone has no special privileges and is reportedly both industrious and excellent in his work as a gardener. Oh, how the mighty have fallen! Money and power are ever so fleeting. Section 2, History and Historiography. The purpose of this section is to give a chance to further explain details that might enhance or distract from the primary story, but are nonetheless relevant to understanding some aspect of the story or the world as it existed. Now, sometimes I drill down how I found a story or explain the debates when sources or information contradict and why one might seem more accurate or not. Obviously, I do a lot of research for each episode. Sometimes I have an overabundance, and the irony is when that happens when I think a story seems more confined or slim, then it grows quite corpulent as I flesh out explanations or contextualize people who have somehow appeared or reappeared in the story. Sometimes those appearances occur only in an adjacent column, thus screaming a larger contemporaneous timeline context. As mentioned previously, I have seen an increase in news articles mentioning Barbara Hutton and Doris Duke comparatively within the last few months. I am also seeing a lot of other historical references that bear noting. I myself have always tried to remember the parallels in contemporaries in history, especially as whenever there are more interactions. Byzantine Empress Irene to French and Holy Roman Emperor Charlemagne, he proposed to her. British Queen Elizabeth I to Russian Ivan the Terrible, ditto, and he sent as a gift a chess set with an elaborate queen piece. And so on. I can't help it. It's quite a compulsive tendency of mine. Now, what I am noticing more and more are the rise of many conflicts and situations hinting and leading to World War II. I make notes and when possible, and definitely when necessary, try to point them out. Case in point, the Brooklyn Daily Eagle on May 7, 1933, features an entire page with a photo dedicated to Signora Rachel Guidi Mussolini. Yes, that's right, Mussolini's second wife, considered even then as the least known wife of a famous husband. One tidbit highlighted, she was Il Duce's stepsister before becoming his sweetheart and wife. Now, I must admit, the only thing I ever knew about this woman previously came when I was logging footage for a company that did over 100 hours of History Channel a year. That footage was of the bodies of Mussolini and his mistress, Clara Petacci, being hung upside down and spit on by Italians in the town square. A decade or more later, Mussolini's body is dug up and reinterred, and the funeral procession is held by his surviving children and wife. What? Yeah, wife. She lived long after him. I came up with the motto then and there, better to be a wife of a dictator, but never his mistress. The mistress always winds up dead. But the wife might be allowed to live, and with some relative peace, as she is not expected to be responsible for her husband's actions. Another note is partially due to all the recent court cases in the press these days. It is interesting to see mention of the Supreme Court in relation to Doris Duke and taxes, as well as other cases. One reviewed case involves gas rate cuts for public utilities in Los Angeles by the California Railway Commission, which the Supreme Court upholds. Another pending case is over radio stations from Chicago and Indiana in conflict over the control of airways and limiting competition between the locations. So far in 1933, before the summer break, the Supreme Court will review 4 cases for appeal while rejecting many others. One case rejected involves 2 Kansas wholesale grocers who sold to pharmacists and other suppliers an extract of Jamaica ginger, commonly known as Jake, to be used as a substitute for alcohol. Unfortunately, this ginger extract ends up causing partial paralysis for hundreds of people who drank it in replacement of an intoxicating beverage. In 1930, people would lose feeling in their feet or leg muscles, causing a distinctive gait known as the Jake walk or Jake dance. It mostly impacts the calf muscles as well as the muscles between the thumbs and fingers. In 1931, brothers John Addis and A.C. Addis are convicted by the government for the outbreak and supplying the bootleg product in their Kansas region, and it is their appeal that is denied. That is a regional issue, but the affliction has a much larger radius. For the larger core problem, it is the president of Hub Products Corporation, Harry Gross, considered most responsible for the incident when he tries to substitute the expensive castor oil additive with a cheaper phosphate, one that was used in thinning plastics and paint thinning. The outbreak occurred in 1930 and mostly affects the extremities and the hands and feet. At first, the newspapers and the Supreme Court indicated several hundreds, if not thousands, were impacted by the Addis brothers. But later, estimates of the whole problem put the number between 30 to 50,000 around the country, mostly people of lower income or immigrant status. While for some the results were temporary or partial, many were permanently impacted. Overall, victims received little to no compensation. Of course, several songs are recorded in the early 1930s referring to this incident with Jake Walk or Jake Leg in the titles. Harry Gross and his business partner are fined $1,000 each, essentially $24,000 in 2024, and given a 2-year suspended jail sentence. This incident will be featured as a plot in 2 episodes of the American TV series The Untouchables during Season 2. A similar phosphate poisoning outbreak occurs again in 1959 in Germany, Spain, Italy, and Morocco. History is indeed a strange bedfellow. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Section 3, Contemporary and Personal Relevance. There's a strange dichotomy happening in these stories. The primary stories focus on a set of young heirs and heiresses as they move into adulthood with all its pending promises and heartaches yet to come. Because these are real people, and ones that have been dead for at least 2 decades or more, we have plenty of distance and potentially the full knowledge of their lives. at least certain aspects of their lives. But as they were rich and famous, we have far more information than the average person would have been known to us, except maybe in today's social media. More might be known per se, though you have to wonder what might be illusion or delusion even to oneself. Our heirs and heiresses are definitely in the enviable moment of life. And so far, so much to look forward to. Only we know the truth. We know the points along the way and the ends. We also know other world and personal events that will collide and detour even the best laid and well-funded plans. Because for most of their lives, money was never an obstacle, as in not having enough. Only the polar opposite of too much, except in one case, and that is by relative comparison. Strange how money amplifies both good and bad, complicating, multiplying, and obfuscating so much. It does something internal when retelling their stories of love, hope, and promise on a granular level, while knowing the darkness that will come. Re-experiencing a form of hope and naivety, heading towards more troubling times and desperate situations. Even if one crisis is averted, or might have been averted, another inevitably comes in its place, and the collision ever so much louder and brighter. Could it be a supernova explosion? The death of an old star giving birth to a new one? Or the demolition of an essentially necessity like the Baltimore Bridge? It is somewhat cathartic when looking at one's own troubles to know that others struggle in similar ways, while also possibly trying to figure out, is there something that can be learned and used to benefit our own situations, even if only to understand someone closer to us? In contrast to looking at these stories, our near future to the end of our lives is unknown, both the pleasures and the pains before us. I mean, we can sort of know societally we are obviously in rocky times. Social upheaval is quite rampant, and the only small consolation we have is in knowing that in time, things will move on, but at what cost? And at what time can only be determined in hindsight. It's so funny, the common phrase and justification today is being on the right side of history, a very loaded and misguided phrase, because any true exploration of history will reveal dark and twisted paths. Good intentions gone awry, bad things sometimes leading to better situations, it's all in what we can make of it, if in just the need to move on and reestablish control and hope. Our stories are not over yet, both heirs and heiresses as well as our own. Plenty of interesting twists and turns are afoot, so stay tuned. My friend and fellow podcaster MayaChupkov hosts Proud Stutter, which features people with verbal disabilities doing extraordinary things. Maya is now spearheading a documentary, Rock of Hope, to help inspire those with stuttering. They need assistance raising the last $24,000 to finish the film. If you are interested in contributing to this worthwhile cause, check out Proud Stutter at www.proudstutter.com. Links in the notes and transcript. Information will also be available via As the Money Burns website and social media. If you enjoy As the Money Burns, then please share, like, and subscribe. Next, when we return to As the Money Burns, pending nuptials bring more attention to a royal fiancé and his questionable lineage. Until then, As the Money Burns is an original podcast written, produced, and voiced by Nikki Woodard based on historical research. Archival music has been provided by Past Perfect Vintage Music. Check out their website at www.pastperfect.com. Please come visit us at As the Money Burns via GoodPods X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, now Mado, or Instagram. Transcripts, timeline, episode guide, and character bios are available at asthemoneyburns.com.